Welcome to Stoic Psyche Wisdom, the place where timeless philosophy meets the reality of your everyday life. Today, we're going to explore Stoicism, not as a dusty, ancient idea locked in old books, but as a living, breathing system for mastering your emotions, building inner strength, and living with unshakable purpose. If you've ever felt like life is throwing challenges at you faster than you can keep up, wondered how to stay calm while others lose their heads, wanted a way to make better decisions without being trapped by fear, anger, or impulse, then what you're about to learn could change everything. Stoicism is not about being cold, emotionless, or detached from life. It's about developing the courage to face reality exactly as it is, the clarity to make wise choices, the discipline to follow through, and the compassion to act with justice, even when the world makes it difficult. In this video, we'll uncover the ancient origins of Stoicism and how. Philosophy of emperors, slaves, and warriors alike. The four cardinal virtues, the pillars of the Stoic life, and how they can guide you through any challenge. The core principle that ties Stoicism to every major wisdom tradition, from Buddhism to modern psychology, and the myths and misunderstandings about Stoicism that keep people from experiencing its full power. Stay with me until the end, because once you see how these principles interconnect, you'll walk away with not just knowledge, but a practical blueprint you can use today to build a calmer, stronger, and more resilient mind. Because here's the truth. In a noisy world full of quick fixes and shallow advice, Stoicism offers something rare. A philosophy tested by centuries, refined through hardship, and proven by some of the most remarkable human beings who ever lived. And if it could guide them through war, betrayal, political chaos, and personal loss, imagine what it could do for you. If you're ready. Back over 2,000 years ago, to a painted porch in ancient Athens, where a shipwrecked merchant named Zeno began teaching a way of life that would echo across history. Chapter 2, The Timeless Roots of Stoicism. Picture this. The year is around 300 BCE. The air in Athens is warm and dry, carrying the faint smell of olive trees. The bustling agora, the city's marketplace, is alive with merchants calling out their goods, philosophers debating under shaded porticos, and travelers, fresh from distant lands, exchanging tales. Among them walks Zeno of Citium, a merchant from Cyprus whose life, until recently, had been defined by trade and the sea. But fate had other plans. Zeno's ship had wrecked on the Athenian coast, destroying not only his cargo, but also the life he thought he was meant to live. He arrived in Athens with little more than the clothes on his back, and a gnawing question. What now? The birth of an idea. In this moment of uncertainty, Zeno did what so many great minds have. After disaster, he sought wisdom. One day, while wandering through the city, he stumbled into a bookshop and began reading about Socrates, the man who had challenged an entire city to examine its life. Something in those pages gripped him. The story goes that Zeno turned to the bookseller and asked where men like Socrates could be found. The bookseller pointed to a philosopher walking nearby, Crates of Thebes, a teacher of the Cynic school, and told Zeno to follow him. Zeno did more than follow. He studied relentlessly, absorbing lessons from the Cynics, from Platonists, and from the rich mix of philosophical voices in Athens. But over time, he began to shape his own vision, one that combined discipline with compassion, self-mastery with deep engagement in the world. the painted porch. Eventually, Zeno began teaching in a public space, a long, columned portico in the heart of Athens, decorated with elaborate frescoes. In Greek, this place was called the Stoa Poikile, painted porch. Here, Zeno's students gathered not in marble lecture halls, but in an open-air meeting place where ideas could be tested against the noise of daily life. From this humble but vibrant setting came the name of the philosophy itself, Stoicism. More than a word, today, Stoic is often used to mean emotionless, someone who hides their feelings no matter what. But this modern meaning is a shadow of the original. For Zeno and his followers, Stoicism was not about cold detachment. It was about learning to master your mind so that you could live with integrity, courage, and harmony, no matter what fortune brought your way. From Athens to the world, over the next centuries, Stoicism spread far beyond the painted porch. It was carried by soldiers, merchants, and scholars into the heart of the Roman Empire, and at its peak, it became the guiding philosophy of emperors. But what makes Stoicism so unique is that it wasn't just for the powerful. Some of its most voices came from drastically different walks of life. Epictetus, born a slave, who taught that true freedom comes from mastering your own mind. Seneca, a statesman and playwright, who navigated the dangerous politics of the Roman court while writing timeless essays on life and death. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled a vast empire while privately recording his struggles and principles in what we now call meditations. Think about that. A slave, a politician, and an emperor, all speaking the same philosophical language, all agreeing that while we can't control the world, we can control how we respond to it. A philosophy tested by fire. This wasn't abstract theory for them. Epictetus endured chains and the whims of a master. Seneca faced exile, political scheming, and ultimately, a forced death. Marcus Aurelius led armies through brutal winters and faced plagues that ravaged his people. And yet, in each of their writings, you find a common thread: calm in the face of chaos, purpose in the face of uncertainty, dignity in the face of injustice. Chapter 3: The Global Influences That Shaped Stoicism. When people first hear the word Stoicism, they often picture it as an exclusively Greek or Roman philosophy, born in the marketplace of Athens and perfected in the political heart of Rome. While that's true on the surface, the deeper story is far richer. Stoicism is not a philosophy that sprouted in isolation. It is the product of centuries of cultural cross-pollination, shaped by the wisdom, trade routes, and political upheavals of the ancient world. Stoicism was born into a globalized environment, not in the modern sense of instant communication, but in the ancient sense of empires and merchants constantly exchanging goods, stories, and ideas across continents. To truly understand Stoicism, you must see it not just as a Greek idea refined by Romans, but as a blending of diverse intellectual streams flowing in from across the known world. 1. The Greek intellectual bedrock. Stoicism's home address is undeniably Greece, specifically Athens in the 3rd century BCE. Its founder, Zeno of Citium, was deeply influenced by Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. From Socrates, Stoics absorbed the belief that virtue is the highest good, and that external events cannot truly harm the soul. From Plato, they inherited a structured, almost architectural way of thinking about ethics, logic, and the nature of the universe. From Aristotle, they took the idea that reason is the defining human trait, and that a flourishing life must be lived in accordance with it. Yet Greece itself was not a closed intellectual bubble. By Zeno's time, it had already been exposed to ideas from Egypt, Persia, and India through centuries of conquest and trade. 2. Persian and Eastern moral currents. Zeno was born in Citium, on the island of Cyprus, a crossroads of Mediterranean and Near Eastern trade. From early on, he would have been Persian ideas influenced by Zoroastrianism, which emphasized moral dualism, good versus evil, and the cosmic struggle for virtue. Persia's influence subtly echoes in Stoicism's idea of a universal order, the logos, and the moral duty to align one's life with it. The conquests of Alexander the Great had also opened Greek thought to Eastern traditions. Some historians argue that Indian philosophical concepts like detachment from desire, seen in early Buddhism, may have indirectly seeped into Stoic thinking through cultural exchanges in the Hellenistic world. 3. Egyptian and African contributions. Egypt's role in shaping Stoicism is often overlooked. Egypt had a rich tradition of wisdom literature, emphasizing humility, self-control, and the transient nature of life, themes that would resonate strongly in Stoic writings. Alexandria, in particular, became a cosmopolitan hub where Greek philosophy mingled with Jewish theology, Babylonian astronomy, and African traditions. Coincidence that many later Stoic thinkers either studied in or drew influence from this intellectual melting pot. 4. The Roman refinement. If Greece planted the seed of Stoicism, Rome watered and pruned it into the philosophy we recognize today. Roman Stoics, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, were not only philosophers, but also political leaders, teachers, and emperors. Roman Stoicism leaned more heavily into practical ethics than abstract theory, focusing on how to survive the chaos of politics, war, and personal loss with dignity and integrity. This shift from theory to daily practice is why Stoicism endured. It became not just an idea to think about, but a discipline to live by. 5. Stoicism as an ancient global philosophy. When you pull back and see the whole picture, Stoicism looks less like a purely Western invention and more like a global philosophy forged in a time of unprecedented connectivity. It absorbed Greek logic, Persian moral duty, Egyptian wisdom, perhaps even echoes of Indian detachment. It was shaped in the marketplaces, ports, and courts of an interconnected world. In other words, Stoicism was never just Greek or Roman. It was human. Chapter 4. The Stoic View of the Universe, Logos and Nature. If Stoicism is a map for living, then the Logos is the compass that orients the traveler. To understand Stoicism fully, you must first understand the Stoic view of the universe, because for the Stoics, life isn't just about human desires and struggles. It's about existing in harmony with a larger, rational order. 4.1. What is the Logos? The ancient Stoics believed that the universe is not a chaotic accident, but a vast, ordered system, guided by a rational principle they called the Logos. Logos can be translated as reason, order, or divine intelligence. It is not a god in the religious sense, but it functions like the mind of the universe, the blueprint that gives structure to everything, from galaxies to your own thou. Think of it this way. Just as your body operates under biological laws and your mind under logical principles, the universe itself operates under the Logos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "All things are woven together, and the common bond is sacred, and scarcely one thing is foreign to another. For they have been arranged together in their places, and together make the same ordered universe." 4.2. Nature as the manifestation of Logos in Stoic philosophy. Nature is not just trees, rivers, and mountains. It is the totality of reality. To live according to nature means to live in alignment with the rational order of the cosmos. For humans, this means using reason, the faculty we share with the Logos, to guide our actions. For everything else, it means fulfilling its natural role, the sun shining, the river flowing, the seed growing into a tree. A Stoic would argue that our unhappiness comes when we resist nature, when we wish for winter in the middle of summer, or demand that unfold differently than they do. The Stoic path is acceptance without passivity. Act wisely within the framework that nature has set. 4.3. Determinism and the flow of the universe. The Stoics embraced a form of determinism, the belief that everything happens according to the unbreakable chain of cause and effect under the guidance of Logos. This doesn't mean they rejected free will. Rather, they believed you cannot control the external sequence of events, but you can control your internal response to them. It's as if you are a sailor on a ship whose course is already set by the captain, Logos. You can't change the destination, but you can adjust your sails, navigate wisely, and enjoy the journey without needless resistance. 4.4. Humans as fragments of the divine. Perhaps one of the most empowering Stoic beliefs is that human reason is a spark of the Logos. You are not an accidental speck in a meaningless void. You are a conscious expression of the universe's rati. This is why the Stoics valued self-discipline, moral virtue, and wisdom above all, because to live irrationally is to betray your own divine nature. 4.5. Implications for daily life. Understanding Logos and nature transforms how you see the world. When life is chaotic, remember, beneath the surface, there is order. When plans fail, remember, the universe might be steering you towards something better. When people wrong you, remember, they too are parts of the same cosmic whole, even if they are acting ignorantly. The Stoic does not see himself as a lonely individual struggling against fate, but as a participant in a vast and meaningful cosmic order. Final thoughts and conclusion. Living the Stoic way in a modern world. As we stand here, looking back over the journey of Stoicism, from its humble beginnings in a painted porch in Athens, through its adaptation in the hands of Roman emperors and slaves, through the blending of Eastern and Western philosophies, and finally in profound vision of the universe, we start to see something remarkable. Stoicism was never meant to be an ancient relic stored in the dusty shelves of history. It was always meant to be lived. Zeno, Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius weren't writing for abstract philosophers in ivory towers. They were writing for people like us, people who face betrayal, loss, uncertainty, ambition, and the constant struggle to be better than we were yesterday. The Stoics taught us that the universe is governed by Logos, the rational, divine order that holds all things together. They showed us that while we cannot control the chaos outside of us, we can control the order within us. that our happiness does not depend on fortune, fame, or other people's approval, but on the mastery of our own mind. The modern world tries to convince you otherwise. It tells you that your worth is tied to your bank account, your looks, your status, your followers, your possessions. But the Stoics whisper something far more liberating. You are enough when you live in accordance with nature, virtue, and reason. This is why Stoicism still matters today. Because even though the world has changed, from ancient marketplaces to digital algorithms, the human condition hasn't. We still love, grieve, hope, suffer, and dream. And we still need the wisdom to navigate it all without losing ourselves. So, as you walk away from this, remember the core truth Stoicism offers. Control what you can. Accept what you can't. Live with courage, justice, self-control, and wisdom. See every obstacle not as a curse, but as an opportunity for growth. The Stoics believed that philosophy wasn't about talking, it was about doing. So don't just admire their words, apply them. Let them shape how you think, how you speak, and how you act. Not tomorrow, not someday, but starting now. Because life is short, fate is unpredictable, but character is forever.